Good day, everyone, and thank you so much, Dr. Saison and the rest of the team of UC Graduate School main campus for the opportunity to present my research paper. So this is Jason Cano under the program of Doctor of Business Administration. So my study is all about the sustainable beach tourism development and management model for beach resorts operations. So the rationale of this study, there is a growing gap in the developing world between the accumulating information generated by tourism research and its practical application. So the gap is more apparent than in the relationship between the resort's operations and its impact on economic and natural environment. So every business operation has a direct and indirect impact to the economy, environment, and social development in a particular place, especially in developing country like Philippines. So there's a lot of hospitality and tourism researchers have conducted a tremendous amount of research in the area of tourism impacts. Just recently, academics and practitioners have come to a general agreement that this impact should be addressed by applying a balanced planning approach to development, like planning that incorporates public participation and issues of sustainability. But unfortunately, balanced planning in developing world is rarely achieved, and the literature still replete with developing world case studies chronicling failures in tourism development. So the fundamental reason for these failures is that key sectors still embrace a messianic faith in economic growth that supersedes the consideration of tourism's known adverse effect. So it means that they are still waiting and hoping that it will be changed in the right time. The developing countries often lack a participatory governance structure, strong regulations, enforcement capabilities, technical and managerial expertise, and the political will required to pursue a balanced planning approach. So over the years, the municipality of Anda has been the second major tourism destination next to Panglao, the island of Bohol, due largely to its spectacular white sand beaches and peaceful environment. So according to the regional distribution of overnight travelers in accommodation establishment, there are 8,841 foreign travelers and 398 overseas Filipinos, and 25,448 domestic travelers, with a total of 34,687 travelers who visited Anda annually as of May 30, 2019. So it increased significantly, especially in foreign tourist arrivals, from 1% as of 2018 to 6% as of 2019. Due to the continuous arrival of tourists in Anda Bohol, there had been a growing occurrence of tourism or tourist facilities like beach resorts, pension houses, dive shops, bars, restaurants, and cafes. So I observed that there is a rapid changes in the societal and structural extents of the locality during the past several years, with the increase of the establishment in the coastal areas of the town. Although there are desirable impacts of the existence of numerous beach resorts, there will always be another side of economic affluent. So this study is undertaken to explore the implications of the tourism establishments towards the local community and its environment. So there were three theories cited to comprehend, explain, and understand the subject of this study. The anchor theory is based on the three P's, which is the people, planet, and profits, or also called as a triple bottom line, that describes the sustainability framework for the three dimensions such as economic, social, and environmental. This anchor theory is supported by development theory and the theory of sustainability that overlaps among the three dimensions of sustainability, particularly the strong linkage between economic vis-a-vis environmental sustainability. So let's proceed on the objectives of this study. So this study aims to determine the extent of implementation of solid waste and wastewater management and the contribution of the operation of beach resorts in Andabohol. The findings of this study serve as basis in devising an environmentally friendly model for beach resorts. So let's proceed to the methodologies, and we will talk first about the research environment. So this study was conducted in Andabohol, where it is situated in the eastern coast of the island, roughly 110 kilometer or 3 hours ride from Tagbilaran City, in which many neighboring resorts are located. So there were 20 beach resorts or establishments were involved in this study. So these are the following 20 beach resorts establishments. So the following statistical tools were used in the study. First, frequency count and percentage were used to analyze and interpret the profile of the respondents. Weighted mean used to analyze and interpret on how the beach resorts manage the different kinds of waste and the contribution of the operations of beach resorts as perceived by the stakeholders. And then chi-square test of independence was used to determine the significant relationship between the extent of implementation of solid waste and wastewater management and the profile of the respondents. And lastly, thematic analysis was used to determine the challenges encountered by the stakeholders in the operations of beach resorts. So now let's proceed to results and discussion. So this part shows the data on the profile of the respondents. So the highest proportion of 30% of the respondents belong to the age bracket of 40 years old and above. Expectedly, a manager or those personnel belonging to the higher management of the beach resorts were already at the middle adulthood and possessed the ideal level of maturity and experience to manage people and the general operations of the organization. Concerning about the gender, the data shows that more than 3/4 or 80% of the respondents were females, while males comprises only 20%. So this data implies that the females nowadays are taking the higher management level of beach resorts, unlike several decades ago, wherein such positions are mostly assigned to male managers. In terms of civil status, more than 2/3 of the respondents, or 70% of the total number of respondents, were singles, and almost 1/3 or 30% were married. So this data shows that in the current generation, majority of the educated people would prefer to focus more on their career rather than getting married and start a family, despite the fact that Andabohol is in a rural area where the people are most likely to get married earlier. The highest proportion of the respondents, that comprises 65%, were college graduate. This means that the beach resorts are employing managers who had already finished a bachelor's degree. Despite Andabohol is located in the rural community, the management of beach resorts preferred employees who had formal training in hospitality management. And in terms of occupation of the respondents, majority or 55% or comprising of 11 respondents were general managers of the beach resorts. In this study, the inclusion criteria to be respondents should be those employees who could provide information on the operations of the beach resorts, and general managers are expected to do this task well compared to the other employees. And now I will jump into table number 7, extent of implementation of solid waste and wastewater management in the beach resorts. So I'll just jump into the aggregate mean in these 3 indicators. A moderate implementation in terms of solid waste management as to waste reuse. So this results indicates that the resource management could not use other unconsumed supplies or old machines, equipment, etc. Instead, they throw them as garbage. However, this kind of practice was only minimal since they were conserving their assets to full usage as much as possible in any instances. And lastly, The overall aggregate mean of 3.49, that the resource management is highly implemented in terms of wastewater management in its overall operations. It means that the management observed the strict water use monitoring, water conservation, and reusing of wastewater for other uses. This is a way of also reducing the level of consumption and expenses on water. And now again, I will jump into the table number 11, aggregate data on the stakeholders' perception on the contribution of the operations of beach resorts. So there are three indicators: economic growth, social development, and environmental protection. So the overall aggregate mean of 3.30 shows that the beach resorts operating in the municipality of Andabohol had a high contribution towards the people who receive impact from the beach resorts daily operations. This means that this type of hospitality establishment improves the local community's local economy and social viability. So the highest aggregate mean of 3.37 indicates that the beach resorts operations had a high contribution towards the local community of Andabohol. This means that the numerous resorts had operate in this municipality provided in income sources through jobs and business opportunities through the influx of more people from different places in the Philippines and other countries. Thus, it improves the standard of living of the local people. Still, the lowest aggregate mean of 3.23 denotes that many beach resorts in the study area had a moderate contribution towards the environmental protection. This result indicates that the beach resorts had some failure to ensure that their operation does not pollute the natural environment and does not destroy the animals' natural habitat like mangroves, corals, and white sand. So operators forget their responsibility not just to earn income but also to protect and maintain the natural environment's good condition. They can also be affected if it is damaged because of the resort's daily operations. So now let's proceed to the qualitative part of my study. This section shows the common themes created out of the articulations of the chosen research participants who were stakeholders of beach resorts in Andabohol about the challenges they experience in the beach resorts operations in ensuring the economic growth. So in figure number 2 here shows the thematic categories about the various stakeholders' challenges in the beach resorts operations in Andabohol in terms of economic growth. So these common themes were uncovered during the one-on-one interviews of the study's key informants based on the thematic analysis. So the challenges encountered by the stakeholders in the operations of beach resorts in terms of ensuring economic growth were the poor service quality decreases guest loyalty. Second one, lack of transparency in financial report. Number 3, local guests outnumbered foreign visitors. Fourth, marketing disadvantage due to increasable location. Fifth, unstable employment. Sixth, failure to comply the legal obligation. And then seventh, fishing ban. So these are the challenges encountered by the stakeholders in terms of the economic growth. So now let's proceed in the area of social development. In contrast, the challenges in attaining social development were negative intercultural adaptation. Second one, culture and heritage disturbance. Third, inequalities of resources. Fourth, lack of community involvement. Fifth, low public health protection. Further, the challenges in asserting environmental protection of the beach resorts existence in the locality were: first, weak environmental monitoring and enforcement. Second one, rejecting environmental policy. Third, additional burden. Fourth, minimizes financial growth opportunities. And fifth, excessive fees discourage tourists to return. So these are the challenges encountered by the stakeholders in the three areas: in the economic growth, in the social development, and the environmental protection. Now let's proceed to the table number 12, significant relationship between the respondent's profile and the perceptions on the extent of implementation of solid waste and wastewater management of beach resorts. So, in the aspect of waste minimization, there is no significant relationship between respondents' profile and their perception on the extent of implementation of solid waste management of beach resort in terms of waste minimization. However, there is a significant relationship between the civil status of the respondents and their perceptions on the extent of implementation of solid waste management as to waste reuse based on the computed chi-square value of 7897, which is higher than the critical value of 7.815. Hence, the null hypothesis is rejected. This means that respondents' civil status has influence on their views on the implementation of solid waste management of beach resorts. So married employees were more concerned on how to conserve the assets of the organization, since they are particular with the budgeting compared to single employees who do not usually have the familiar financial obligations. So that's the end of the results and discussion. And now the conclusion: the beach resorts in the rural location were fully compliant with the proper solid waste management. And operations of a number of beach resorts had provided local residents with jobs and different source of income paired with significant social benefit. And there are environmental conservation and protection measures that were compromised that also possess some threats towards their sustainability. So this is the end of my presentation, and thank you for listening and have a nice day.